All right, so this is 8.4. We're just reviewing what we did the other day. Don't want to write with purple ink. Might not be able to see it. So if I have y equal 1/2 x minus 3, what is they ask you two questions. What's the slope? And what is the y-intercept? And the y-intercept is also known, aka also known as what? What do we call the y-intercept, or how do we think about it when we graph? Think about it as
where the graph goes through the y-axis.
It goes through the y-axis. It's a starting point for us too, isn't it? Right? So it's the place where the graph goes through the y-axis. So we go to the y number line, we color that dot in, but that's our starting point. So also known as your starting point is what's kind of, it's so funny. I'll think everybody knows how to do something, and then some of my ninth graders were trying to graph lines, and they had forgotten all about what they thought 1/2 was a point. What is 1/2 in this equation? The slope. The number in front of the x is the slope. So the slope is 1/2. And we're going to go ahead and graph this one in a minute just because it gives us more bang for the buck on a problem here. The slope is 1/2. In a minute, that's going to be our rise over our run when we try to graph it, right? And again, you don't have to graph it on your paper unless you just want another graphing example, because that's not what the instructions ask you to do. What is that minus 3 then? The y-intercept. We take the sign with it. So the y-intercept is -3, but remember I told y'all I wanted you to write it as a point. If it's a y-intercept, they're giving you the y value. The y value is -3. And so, like, let's say I was going to graph it. I'll just draw a small graph here because we don't need anything very big. By the way, I sent that graph paper out last night. I've heard from some of your parents. I sent it out as a Word document. And so I've sent it back out to any of the parents who emailed me. What I did is I saved it as a PDF and like I know Olivia, who else did I do? I think Olivia, I think your mom. Some of your moms have emailed me. If your mom's having trouble opening it, email me and I'll send it to them as a PDF. It was a Word document, and I think that it was hard for some computers to open it. So just let me know if you're having problems, and I'll resend it as a PDF. That's probably what's going on if you're having trouble opening it. Okay, so I'm going to graph in green. My starting point was -3. Remember, this is the y-intercept, so on the y number line, I'm going to go put a point at -3. And wouldn't -3, if this is 0 here in the middle, -3 would be right here, wouldn't it? Because this is my x-axis and this is my y-axis. Always label your axis, right? Now, how am I going to get another point? Because I need 2 points to get a line. What will I do? I start with that point and I use the other information I got. What was the other information? The slope. Thank you. The slope was rise over run. It was 1/2, but it's helpful for me to think of it as rise over run now because I'm going to start at that y-intercept. That's why we said also known as the starting point. That's where I start. I rise 1 like on an elevator. So that means I'm going to go up 1 unit. That's not a point. Don't draw a point there. You're in the middle of counting because now you got to run over 2. And if it's positive 2, it means go right 2. So 1, 2, wouldn't that put it about right here? I didn't put a dot when I counted up 1. I didn't put the dot until I had counted up 1 and over 2. So that's one mistake I've been noticing on some people's papers. They thought there was a dot there in the middle. There's my line right there. Not pretty. I didn't draw it very straight. Now, one of the things I told y'all was that I wanted you to put the y-intercept as a point because you have to do that all the rest of high school, and so we might as well make some good habits now. What is that point? If it's the y-intercept, what would I set equal to 0 to get the y-intercept if I had used algebra to get it? To find an intercept, you set in this case it would be x, the opposite variable, okay? So we got the y-intercept, that means x was 0. So that's one way to put it down on your paper. The other way is to look at that point there. Isn't that the point? X is 0, y is -3. So you can just look at your graph and figure out the coordinate points. Or you could just remember that when you're finding an intercept, you set the opposite variable equal to 0. So if it's a y-intercept, you set x equal to 0. Oh, you set x equal to 0, write down 0, because that's what you just said x was. Sometimes you just get so used to hearing a phrase that you kind of don't understand what it means. That means I'm actually going to plug in 0 for x. Okay, so one of the things we did was this sort of thing. We had to find the slope and the y-intercept, and then we used it later on to graph the equation. That's what kind of the rest of that page 368 was about, was graphing that sort of thing. How about we review some weird ones again, and I'll just pick different weird ones.
19.
No, that's fine. So 19. Oh, I'm glad you asked this one.
X plus y equals 8.
Okay. Here comes Mr. Potato Head.
Hot potato! Here we go!
What the heck? Everyone touch that.
Watch out if you got a drink on your desk. Remember, if it doesn't have a lid on, you might want to kind of. All right, so Evan, you have it. Evan.
No, I don't.
Evan.
Yeah, that's how it works.
We're supposed to graph this, which means we need the slope and y-intercept. Is this in slope-intercept form? Is this in y equal mx plus b form?
No.
No. What would I do to get it in that form?
It would be y. Well, you would subtract x from both sides.
Good. And that would cause this to cancel out, and I would have down y.
Y equals negative x plus 8
Why did you put the x first?
because it's y equals mx
Right.
plus b.
Our brains can handle things so much better if they're in the form that your brain learned it in and expects it in. Okay? So y equal mx plus b. Why do we have a plus 8?
Because of the positive 8.
Yeah, it's a positive 8. So I can't just put negative x8, can I? I got to put negative x plus 8 because we're adding. Okay? So hit the button and start tossing it.
This thing takes so many hits.
Oh, gently. It has to go to somebody that hadn't had it already. So don't send it to Evan. I mean, you can toss it to him in the middle, but... Oh! McCabe. All right, so the instructions on this tell me to use the slope and the y-intercept to graph the equation. So one of the things I need to know is the slope, and another thing I need to know is the y-intercept, and then I'm going to go graph it in a minute. You can pick either the slope or y-intercept. Tell me one of those two things.
Slope,
Uh-huh.
which is 1, negative 1.
Negative 1. We take the sign with it, and remember that Lazy Math Guy did not write that 1 there, and it helps to see it, so we can put it in. It's negative 1. If I'm going to count rise over run in a minute, what am I going to do with that negative 1 so I can get a rise and a run? Because slope's a fraction, basically. How do I turn negative 1 into a fraction? James?
Put it over 1.
Put it over 1. So if I put negative 1 over 1, I know in a minute that I'm going to go down 1 because the slope is negative 1. So I'm going to rise negative 1, which means you're on an elevator and you're going down. And then positive 1 on the bottom would be 1 to the right since it's positive. You only put the negative with one number or the other. Don't ever put it with both. It's a common mistake. People want to put it with both things, and you only put it with one. Okay? All right. Hit it.
Hot potato! Here we go!
No.
At least it gently. Gently throw, gently toss, up in the air gently. Olivia, you're gonna be the one to punch it next time. Not yet. Don't punch it. What is the y-intercept? McCabe, tell me the slope. So what's the y-intercept? 8. Good. Okay. So the y-intercept is 8. How would I write that as a point? What's the x value and the y value?
0.
Yeah. 8's the y value because it's the y-intercept. And to get a y-intercept, you would set x equal to 0. So we're going to write the 0 down. Good. Okay, so hit it. Just you press it, you squeeze it, and then when the music starts playing, you throw it to somebody.
Throw it.
Oh, okay,
Really, the game, they intercept everything.
nice. I'm not good at this. That's your grab for your
It's right there.
Hey, I was already.
Yeah, if you've had it already, you need to get because
Ethan!
Ethan, I want to graph this now. I got my slope. I got my y-intercept. How does that help me? Yeah? Whoa, that's not good. Did I turn it off? No. Okay, so where would I start?
You go up 8.
Yeah, my y-intercept is my starting point, right? So that means on the y-axis, so I need to label my axis. On the y-axis, I'd go up 8. So I'd put the point there, okay? So now hit it.
Oh my goodness.
Potato!
Oh my goodness. No, I'm gonna
Gently, gently, gently. Somebody that hadn't had it yet.
Come on!
Do it. Over to Dave.
It looks like it's closest to Jessica. Jessica, after I graph
Where are you
that,
throwing it to?
after I graph that first point, what do I do next to graph the line?
You do
The slope, right? And my slope was -1/1. So I'm going to go to the point. What do I do first? Down 1, and then right 1. Rise -1 means down 1. Run +1 means go to the right 1. There's my next point. And voila, it's graphed. That's why we like this form. It gives us everything we need, right? Go ahead. Okay.